Good afternoon. Welcome to day 2 of Tellus Science Museum Mineral Symposium 2021. Our theme this year is mineral collecting. Yesterday we had a talk from Chris Clark about what you would want to collect and how to collect those items. And today we have the Executive Director of Tellus Science Museum, Jose Santamaria, going to talk on how to care for your collection. Jose collects wherever he goes. When I hear him tell me stories of when he travels, of finding that place along the way where he can always collect something else. And I've seen his storage at his house and some of his showcasing of things. So I look forward to hear how he explains how we should take care of our collections today. Over to you, Jose.
Thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you for inviting me to be part of the symposium this year. So yesterday we did hear Christopher Clark talking about, different collecting philosophies, and he covered a lot about specimens that you purchased. Later on this week, my friend Jeff Deere is going to talk about field collecting. And so what I'd like to cover is, what to do once you have assembled a collection. So that really the subject is caring for your collection. I started talking about this years ago when I started, I was already a museum professional, and I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly in collecting. I've seen collections wonderfully taken care of, cataloged, prepared, but I've also seen collections where the collector barely knew what he had. And I've also seen rocks in boxes. I mean, rocks were specimens where a collector passed away and the family threw everything in the rock in a box, brought them over to the museum. Hey, you want these rocks? And then what would have been fine specimens were ruined by just being carelessly thrown together. So the main points I want to cover today are, first of all, if you have a collection, you are the curator. If you don't care for your collection, who will? Oh, it's you. The second point is that your collection has value. Now, people come to me and tell me, oh, my collection is nothing. It's not as good as a museum's. Well, of course it's not. Now, most people's collections are not as good as a museum collection, but your collection should be important to you. So it has value, if to nobody else, to you. I also think that a collection deserves some kind of record-keeping documentation so that the information about your specimens don't get lost. Because the worst place to store information about your collection is right up here. I think if you have a good mineral collection, I think it should be displayed somewhat, not everything, but displayed safely and stored safely, some things to consider. And last but not least, you're not going to have your collection forever. So I think you should plan for the future of your collection. So starting off with, well, if you're among collectors among us, or if you're watching this, well, given, we all love to collect. And so I want to go into both cover purchased specimens, field collected specimens, and I don't discriminate. So I go for minerals one week, and last weekend I was collecting fossils, and I'm going to show you my take from last weekend. I was fossil collecting for 2 days, and so if you're a field collector, you're going to bring back probably more stuff than what you need. But the point is, well, now what? Now what do you do? And so show you what I just kind of going over what I mentioned earlier. A couple of things you might consider. And a lot of these are suggestions. You may not want to do everything, but there are some things that I strongly suggest that you do. First, record your trip. Where'd you go? Who'd you go with? What happened? If you bring back a lot of stuff when you're field collecting, at some point, they're all not going to be great specimens. I'm sure you're going to pick out a few. They're going to be your keepers. Now, if you're buying specimens at a mineral show, that's different. You're probably not going to buy it unless you already knew it was a keeper. There may be some preparation involved, especially if you're field collecting. Cataloging, I'm going to just emphasize this over and over again, but cataloging your specimens is very important. Displaying. There's also the issue of controlling the collection. Some of you may know what I'm talking about, collections that have gotten out of control, and of course, planning for the future. So, recording the event, was it field collecting? Was it a purchase? Was it a gift or a trade? Here's what I do. Here's my little ledger, and this is archival paper, and I'm using an archival pen, so the information stays there forever. I wish I could tell you that as soon as I get back, I'm writing stuff down. I don't always. Sometimes I wait a week or two, but I don't wait too long for the memory to fade. And then eventually I'll go back and I may assign numbers. The numbers don't get on there right away. So selecting your best specimens, I bring back that picture, that photograph of what I collected over this past weekend. And to the right is from a previous trip. I brought back as much stuff, but then there were some pieces that were just outstanding. This is one of them, and this is actually one that I'm eventually going to give to the museum. What happens to the rest? Well, you may want to keep a few more pieces in storage. I tend to give a lot of stuff away eventually that I don't need. But making a conscious effort of picking out what those best pieces are, I think that's important. All right, preparation. Now, these are photographs from the prep lab right here at Tellus. This is more like an area for Ryan and his volunteers to work in. I don't work in there much. I'm going to show you some of the tools that I don't have at home. The rock splitter on the left, and the sandblasting unit on the right. Those are super cool preparation tools to have. But at home, I have more basic. Obviously, hammers and chisels and little tools to break off a piece of rock. I'll tell you what, one of my favorite tools is that little water jet gun. And, this is a Niagara brand. You can actually get one from a dry cleaning supply store. And of course, here in the Southeast, there's a lot of iron staining that occurs on minerals. So soaking your specimens in a substance such as super iron out, very effective for cleaning specimens. Here's a photograph of a fern fossil that was a little too big for the centerpiece. If you look at this is the main event right over here. The piece was twice as big, but after trimming it, it turned out to be a very nice piece, and I believe that's now in the museum collection. All right, this is the most important thing you've got to consider because information about about your specimens is very important. So, cataloging 101. This is my philosophy that I like to convey to you. First of all, numbers have to go on a rock. I've heard of people, well, they keep a label in a box with a specimen. I've seen collections where labels was wrapped around the specimen with a rubber band. That is not a very reliable method because eventually, unfortunately, labels could get separated from the specimen. I've seen collections where the collector had it all in his or her head. They could tell you everything about the specimen, but you know what? That information dies with the collector. So information about a specimen, I think, needs to be written down to preserve the importance of a specimen. I have gone through many people's houses to look at collections. You had a father, a grandmother, an uncle passed away. They wanted me to look over the collection, and many times I see a lot of fine mineral specimens with no catalog number, with no information. So, I could tell them, hey, this is quartz. Where it's from, I have no idea. I mean, on rare occasions, you have minerals like, say, crocoite, where there's only a few locations, more likely Tasmania, for example, so you could determine the location. But for most minerals, without this preserved information, you just don't know, and that just detracts from the value of the specimen. So, what do I do? Well, there's a number of systems. Probably I'm going from the most complicated to the simplest. the data system assigns a particular number to each mineral species. So if you have a barrel, it is 61.01.01.01, and then dash 1, 2, 3, whatever, whichever number specimen it is. That's too convoluted for me. At the museum, we use a tripartite system, which means if you look at that number, the 2007.17.8, that's what the most professional collections managers use. It means that it's part of an accession which happened in 2007, lot number 17, specimen number 8. That's good for museum. For me, I want to go with the easiest. And I got this information years ago from Carl Francis, who was the then curator of the Harvard Mineralogical Museum. And he said, and this museum had been around for over 200 years. So they were kind of stuck in their system. But he said, Jose, if you're starting all over, use the number 1. Just start with the 1. Now, I didn't. I started with 100. And in fact, I kind of regret that. I feel like I should have started with 1,000, because that way you can keep those 3 digits for a good while. And then you can just print. You can just run an Excel spreadsheet, and then run those numbers off, print them, and then just glue them to the specimen. So this is what it looks like. This is what a sheet. And this one sheet has lasted me for years. You can see the sheet. You can just cut out the numbers. This is what the individual numbers look like. And you can use some pretty small font. I mean, I think these are like 8 points. I actually blew it up so you can see. It always helps to have a prefix, because for example, this is 465. Well, my 465 could be somebody else's 465. So in this case, I have my initials, Jose Enrique Santamaria. So that's harder for there to be a coincidental duplication with another collection. I apply the numbers with some type of permanent material. In this case, I'm using a matte medium, which is a substance that I use for other purposes too. You can use polyurethane, you can use super glue. Don't use Elmer's glue. Elmer's glue is organic, and it can actually develop mold or other type of organic decay. But pretty much everything is good. Use that to adhere the specimen, the label, the number rather, to the specimen, and then cover it to protect the number from being worn off. So to the right, this is what it looks like. A very simple technique. So the left is what I started with. At one time, the thing to do was to get some whiteout, get some India ink, just print the number on the whiteout, and then covered with the fingernail polish. I've learned the hard way that's not a permanent way. All that can chip off. So my suggestion is don't. We all have access to a laser printer. We all have access to a computer. Running those numbers off, even if you get a friend to do it, a couple of sheets of those numbers will last you forever. So you have number specimens. Then what? Well, yes. Sometimes you cannot attach numbers on small things, and so putting them in a container of some type, either a little bag or one of those round mounts. I don't have a very big gem collection, and so something like this is fine. Just put the numbers on the bag and make sure, obviously, the bags are closed so they don't slip out, and then you can catalog the information. You can get the number to sync with the information. So, what do you put when you have a catalog? Oh, what kind of information do you have? Well, obviously you want to have the species name, and always start with the species name. So if you have amethyst, don't put amethyst on the first line. Put a quartz and then variety amethyst, for example. Locality is important. How you got it? Did you self-collected? Did you purchase it? Was it a gift? Was it a trade? Keep up with the price. And is there a story that goes with it? Some of the stuff is optional, but the most important thing to put on the catalog is, yes, you got it. Like same thing as real estate. Locality, locality, locality. As I mentioned earlier, most curators, most mineralogists can probably identify a specimen or what it is, but most could not tell you where it's from, and that's part of the importance of a specimen. So this is what my initial catalog looks like. I just run off 11 by 17 sheets, write down whatever information I have with it. But this is not my real catalog. This is my real catalog because I've entered my collection into an Excel spreadsheet, which is a great method to manipulate information from a specimen number to a species to localities. As long as you always have a backup in case you mess that up. Something new that I've started based on recommendations from a friend is to start photographing the collection as well. That's part of the record. It's good for insurance purposes. And this is not to stress out to get some Jeff Scoville quality photographs. Just take a snapshot. I'll be sure to have the information, including the specimen number there. And so when you upload those photographs into your computer, into your documents, then change the file number to the specimen number so you can have something like this. And once again, you can sort this by date or so, but in this case, it's sorted by specimen number. So this is just additional information that you can preserve about your collection. And something even newer to me is in the past year and a half, I've got into micro minerals and photomicrography. So this is a different animal. So in this case, I have a lot of specimens that are not yet cataloged because I'm trying to pick out, what are those best pictures to preserve. So in this case, the software that I use tracks the photographs by photo numbers. That's why you see the A290 through 293. It means I've taken this little thing right here, this little label. It's just tacked on with some rubber tack, and then you see the little slips of paper pointing to where the shots were taken from. It means I've taken 290, 91, 92, 93, 4 shots of the same minerals. But then once I determine that this particular photograph is worthy of keeping, then I've cataloged my specimen. This is 5060, and then dash, and then put in the photo number. So there could be a number of 5060s in my database, but a different photo number. So this is an example of what this looks like. You can see right here, you have about 5 slides that are 5003, but then different photo numbers. So this is probably beyond what a lot of you may want to do, but since I've just gotten into it, I was just sharing it with you because keeping track of photographs is another animal, and it's easy to get that out of control and get that confused unless you develop a method to track. Then you might want to consider saving stuff that came with the specimen. If you these are just labels that I saved from specimens that I purchased, and you notice that I wrote down the specimen number on the label, and you see prices. More than likely, if you're a good negotiator, you're not going to pay the listed price. So in the back, I've actually written down the price that I paid. So these I keep separately in a separate envelopes, and I try to keep them in order of a specimen number so I can reach back to them. But in general, when I catalog, I put down all the information. Whether it's just nominal information like over here, Naica, Chihuahua, Mexico, or a lot of information. When I catalog, I really put in all this information because it's all important. Whether I use it or not later on, doesn't matter. At least it's recorded. All right, so you got a collection. You got some nice specimens. You picked out some of your better pieces. Their catalog. I mean, you should be excited. You should be. Your collection should bring you joy. So I hope you're displaying it. But there's some considerations. First of all, most important, there's really no rules. I mean, just displaying them the best way you can. Whatever works for you. I suggest to keep them out of harm's way. I have seen collections in bookcases at kid level that kind of scare me because I knew some of those specimens were kind of pricey, but it was their collection, not mine. Be aware of lights. I mean, I have exhibit cases. I do not keep the lights on because lights can degrade the color of some minerals, and definitely keep them away from sunlight. Because sunlight can really, really fade specimens like rose quartz and amethyst, for example. Avoid permanent mounts. By this, unless you have no choice, unless you need something permanent, permanently attached to your specimen to keep it up, try to place your specimen on a mount that you can remove. We once got a wonderful collection donated to us. Beautiful minerals on excellent mounts, but the minerals were silicone attached to the mounts. And so when it was time to photograph them, taking the specimens off, we learned something new, which is the silicone pulls off the plexi mounts very easily, but it sticks to those specimens. It took us forever just picking out bits of silicone with tweezers. And so unless you have no choice, unless it's necessary for you to prop your specimen up, just don't use any type of adhesive when you're mounting the specimens. And then my last line, just a big conundrum. Should you put labels up or not? That is a question, and I've gone both ways. Here's a case from years ago where, my case, where I put the labels in front of all the minerals. In fact, you see these little things over here. It's very easy method. You can just go to a office supply store, get your business card, a little box of homemade that you can make your own business card. Turn it sideways, landscape, and print specimen numbers, and you see how it's folded. And you can make some really quick and dirty, but very effective labels. Here's a case that I put together for a show. These are more formal-looking, more professional-looking labels over here. You can see from the introductory label to the specimen label. And for this, I printed and mounted information on the foam core. And then I just went to a Home Depot and got some molding and attached it to the back. But if you can see, it stands up really well. It looks very, very professional. However, my approach nowadays is to not have labels. I found it actually more fun when I have friends or family coming over. Even if they don't know anything about rocks, they'll start asking questions as opposed to if they read what something is, then that's it. They go, interesting, and then walk away. So it has led to more conversations. This case I keep in my basement. This is what one area that Ryan was alluding to. And so my basement, my man cave, my lab, that's where I keep a lot of my stuff, especially stuff that's really special to me. But a couple of years ago, I broke down and bought me a fancy schmancy case. Yes, this is upstairs in our den. So visitors who never make it downstairs can see some of my more eye candy minerals. So I love field collecting, but I do purchase specimens, and I like to purchase some that are, first of all, from places that I'm not going to be able to go. I'm not going to go to China to collect some hemimorphi, for example. So I purchased some of these just to add color and add just eye candy to my collection and have something really beautiful upstairs. All right. So sometimes your collection gets out of control. Sometimes, especially with field collector, you keep getting and getting and getting, and then and it's to a point where what do you do? Not all specimens are show worthy, but they're important. And so organized storage is important. Climate control, if possible, is important. But definitely keep specimens separated from other specimens. This is where they're not in cases. You're putting them in boxes. You may be stacking the boxes, and not all of this is possible. I can be very smug now about talking about climate control because all my specimens are indoors inside my house. That was not the case 3 years ago. A lot of them were in my garage, and 3 years before that, they were in a shed where it would get 95 to 100 degrees in the summer, and it'll go down to freezing in the winter. So do your best with the rest of your collection, but definitely your best stuff needs to be indoors. Now, if you're storing things in boxes, you've probably seen this before, using beer flats, using Coke flats. It's a good method for storage, but you can see that I put everything in their own boxes to keep them from scraping against each other. That's very important. And then depending on the sizes, you can put lids on boxes and you can stack safely. This is something that I built based on the width of these flats. So these are 16-inch wide flats. So pretty much a 64 or so inch space over here can accommodate 4 rows of flats and sometimes 3 high. Very, very efficient method for storing the specimens that are not the best of your best, but that you still want to keep and that are still important. However, all right, everybody sit down. At some point, you got to get rid of stuff. And I've done that. I've done that a couple of times in the past 5 years. I've gone through my collection. I've noticed that I had too much of one particular mineral. I've donated a lot to the museum. I donated a lot to some of the local mineral clubs to use as they want. Door prizes, auction pieces. And I'll tell you what, it was fun. It was fun. It was fun going through the collection. It was fun bringing back memories. I didn't get rid of anything that I truly wanted to keep, but I got rid of a lot of stuff. And I think I'm just thinking down the road, some kid getting one of my pieces at auction or getting one of my pieces as a door prize at a mineral club meeting kind of made me happy because somebody else was benefiting from that rock that I collected who knows how long ago. All right. Now for the last part. Ben Franklin once said, there's two things certain in this world, death and that your collection is not going to be with you forever. And so here we go. Your collection is going to outlive you. I've been through a lot of different scenarios with families where the collector made plans, didn't make plans. The family was at a loss to what to do. So I'm going to cover some important points for your consideration. I hope you all have wills. Believe it or not, tomorrow afternoon, my wife and I are going to our attorney's office to update our will. But no matter how young you are, a good friend of mine, meteorite collector Dave Giesling, but one of the healthiest guys that I knew, died at 53 years old last year. But he made preparation. So we're not going to live forever. But if you have assets, if you have important things, including a collection, they should be in your will. So things to decide. All right. First of all, leave specific instructions in your will. Don't let your family try to figure it out. Let your executor know. Let the family know what you want done with your collection. And it could be many things. It could be that you give it to family, give it to friends, offer it to museums or other institutions. Let them know. So a couple of things. Let everybody know because, first of all, you may have an alma mater. You may have the university that had a great geology department when you were going to school. You know, geology departments change, and they actually may not want your collection. Museums, believe it or not, there's more collections out there than there are museums. There's no guarantee that a museum is gonna want your collection, but regardless, let them know ahead of time. This may have been about maybe 15 years ago. I got a call. A lady in South Carolina passed away and willed her collection to us. I had no idea. And the collection, in the will, it stated the collection comes to us, but every single piece needed to be displayed, which goes to that last line. Don't impose, don't make conditions, because museums, I'll tell you what, if a museum tells you they're going to display every single piece of your collection, they're lying. Not intentionally, but they're just not able to. And so donate to an institution, whether it's a museum, a library, a university, but let the institution decide what is best for the collection, whether certain pieces go on exhibit, some go to study, and some get sold to raise revenue for the collections acquisitions budget, for example. If you don't plan for your collection, your collection will be a burden to your family. They may end up being rocks thrown in boxes. I mean, they could be your collection could be dumped. I mean, I've been through a number of stories where collections were just ruined because there was no direction as to what to do with a collection, and you may be a fanatic collector. The rest of your family may not care, may not know how important that collection is to you. So this is important things to think about. But one thing for certain, as to paraphrase Ben Franklin, your collection is going to outlive you. Something else to consider, maybe be proactive. We had a collector, this is Carolyn Randall, the daughter of Frank Maia, one of our benefactors, who she knew she was ill, that she was not going to live much longer, so she invited us to her house to look through her collection, make sure we wanted, first of all, which we did. It was a fabulous collection, and she donated the collection before she passed away. And so that gave us the opportunity to get the collection and then have her come see the pieces on exhibit before she passed away. That's something most collectors are not going to want to do, but it's something to consider. Or see what other institutions or what they need, even if it's just part of their collection. Give pieces away to their family and friends. And of course, the other option is to sell your collection. I've known a number of high-end collectors that had a great time assembling a pretty good collection. They had a great time selling their collection, and then they started collecting again. That's way beyond what I want to do, but it's something that you may consider. And so, to summarize, these are some important points. And if you take nothing away from here, just take these main points, okay? Because regardless of what you have, your collection has value, and you are your collection's curator. If you're not the curator, who is? Document your collection. Above all else, the most important thing you can do is to catalog the collection. Make sure there's a direct link between the information in the catalog and the specimen. And I truly strongly suggest attaching a number to the specimen. I hope you're displaying at least part of your collection, but be sure you do it safely, that they're not banging into each other, that are safely from kids or from cases being or shells being bumped. And finally, and most important, as I just to keep kicking the dead horse, plan for the future of your collection. So things to consider, and like I said, this is you may not need to do everything, but these last 4 points, to me, are those most important points for you to properly care for your collection. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan now. Any questions that may have come in?
Yes, I have actually. Thank you, Jose. And I've actually gotten a couple of questions while you were speaking. One question comes from Michael Sanders, and I think he wants to know how and if you embed the photos in your Excel spreadsheets.
I don't. No. Well, you can do it. You can insert the photos, but I don't. No, the photos are just in Windows in a document file.
Okay.
And so, but to control the photos, I give them specimen numbers and then photo numbers.
Perfect. And then Valerie Hill, looking at your pictures of your exhibits, asked, "Aren't you afraid to use glass shelves?" No. First of all, this is a little bit of a story, but those cases, the big case, those were actually cases at our former museum here, the Weinman Mineral Museum, that then we shut down. We knew we were getting some new cases, so the board let us take cases home. So no, glass shelving with proper support are excellent. And also, the beauty of glass shelving is that it lets the light through.
So you're not just illuminating the top shelf, the light is getting through to illuminate other specimens. And with proper spacing, with proper moving the specimens, they can catch the light. So glass shelving is the best. And good tempered glass is pretty sturdy. I've never, ever had shelving buckle and fall. I've dropped shelves. That's a different story.
Bruce O'Connor has a question. He has a big collection, but he's got loose labels and no numbers. So he's asking, should I sort by species first before new numbering?
Just start with 1, start with 100, start with 1,000. Just start. It doesn't matter. Because, for example, like I did, start with 101. You close your eyes and pick your first specimen. That's 101. The other 102, and so forth and so on. Because once you put it in an Excel spreadsheet, then you can sort by species, you can sort by class, you can sort by location, you can sort by price. I mean, but no, the most important thing is start. Go home and start.
So Linda Barron actually has a question about the spreadsheet. She wanted to know if you had a template.
Yeah, I could send you one, but I think if you even nominally proficient in Excel, I think you can start one. I mean, really, like I said, just number and species, variety. But yeah, I'll be happy to have a blank one, and we can put that up on Facebook. How's that?
Fair enough. And I have a question from Christopher Clark. He asks, where's the best place to buy storage materials?
Okay, so a good place is go to the grocery store and go to the soft drink section. And when you see all these cases of soft drinks, and especially on a busy Saturday afternoon when they've had a run, you see a lot of empty flats sitting around. Just grab them. I mean, trust me, the store management will not ask you questions, and they'll appreciate you helping to clean. But I may need to. I think if you just Google mineral specimen boxes, the ones that I like are the ones that are foldable. And once again, I may need to put that up on Facebook. Get different sizes, and the beauty of that, for some reason, those boxes are such that they actually fit perfectly in these soft drink boxes. And so 2 big ones go side by side, or 3 mediums, or 4 small ones. And they're relatively inexpensive. I mean, I think for about $100 you can get different sizes. And the fact that they come flat and then you fold them, storage is pretty easy. And I also reuse them all the time. So some of my boxes you see size written in and scratched off, and then other sides information written all the way around.
Yeah, I've gathered the information from the sides of them and figured out which one was the right one for the specimen when you've donated to us.
Now, give me credit. I scratch off the obsolete information.
Yeah, you have scratched it off, but it's funny to see where you've reused, and I've wondered what happened to that other specimen.
All right, I'm just recycling.
I know. Well, I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Jose, for sharing with us your ideas, and now we know what to do with our collections, and I apparently have some repenting to do on my own personal collection. And we're grateful to everyone who came and heard the talk today, and hopefully if you didn't hear yesterday's talk, you can get on, go click on that on Facebook. And tomorrow for day 3, we've got Kimberly Wagner from the Perot Science Museum talking about what to do with your collection. Jose focused on that long-term usage, but maybe now you have something in your collection that you might want to share with the world but still be yours. Kimberly's museum, the Perot, they have a model where people borrow, people lend their minerals to the museum to be exhibited for a few months, and then they get them back. And she'll discuss that program that they have tomorrow. And so maybe you can look at museums near you and the opportunity to potentially loan the collection that you've put together, or some portion of your collection. So join us tomorrow at the same time, 12:15 Eastern Daylight Time, and we'll hear from Kimberly Wagner, Perot Science Museum. Again, Jose, thank you so much, and you all have a great day.
Thank you for having me.